It's Friday the 13th, so here are some horror movies for you to watch for the occasion. Now before we get into that, if you love all things horror, all things spooky just as much as I do, be sure to hit that follow button. Starting off as a no-brainer, we have Friday the 13th, the essential Friday the 13th horror movie. I'm not even gonna do one specifically, but the entire franchise in general. Just about all of them are available to watch on Max. You can have a whole movie marathon, or you can have some fun with it and pick whichever ones you want. See No Evil is a slasher movie that features Kane from WWE as the horror villain. But you know what? Don't even just watch the first one, there's two of them, so watch both of them. Kane plays maniac Jacob Goodnight, who terrorizes teenagers and young adults on the same night within both movies. Kane was already scary as hell in WWE, and these two movies bring that to a whole new level. They're available to watch on Tubi. Midnight Movie is an underrated slasher movie that not too many people talk about. It follows young adults who go to a rundown movie theater to watch the screening of a cult classic slasher movie. However, something strange happens, and these young adults find themselves intertwined within the movie itself. So the movie comes to life, and they now find themselves being the victims of the serial killer from that film. This was one of my favorite horror movies during my middle school years. You can check it out on Prime Video. Same thing here, I have Hatchet, but we're not going to do just the first movie. You can watch the entire series, all 4 movies. And it follows local legend Victor Crowley, who terrorizes anyone who enters on his swamp. By local legend, I mean that Victor Crowley was accidentally killed when he was younger. However, he still haunts these swamps. These movies are quite similar to Friday the 13th, and these are available to watch on Tubi. In The Town That Dreaded Sundown, I believe is a remake or it's a requel. And a maniac terrorizes the same small town that we saw from the original movie. He's the Phantom Killer as decades later, and he strikes again. It's an underrated horror movie from the 2010s. It gets brutal, it gets violent at times. It also has a nice mystery and twist going on. You can check it out on Tubi.
The Stanley Cup theory, the cups all the white girls bring around everywhere.
Yeah.
You know how Stanley Cups, that's a huge trend. You know why they're trending?
Why?
Because of this one video that happened on TikTok of a woman in a car that was burned to fire. Burned, it was set aflame.
Yeah.
But the Stanley Cup was in the center console.
Fire yesterday, still has ice in it.
Didn't melt, wasn't damaged, anything, and ice cubes were still inside the Stanley
That's
Cup.
kind of that person, and you use that as advertising.
They didn't. It was just like a car like set of flames, right? But theory goes that viral TikTok with the woman explaining that stuff was the marketing. Shane Dawson actually tested it. They took a Stanley Cup, put some ice in it, threw it in a fire pit. Bro, within like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it was melting. They opened it up, it's water.
So the whole time,
The whole thing was fake, bro. The whole thing was fake.
You marketing.
He had to like break their limbs to show them in there.
Yeah, that's so up.
I just want them back.
The wife and kids. There was body cam footage from the police officer. You see a little girl head in one of the bedrooms and then like runs away.
You see it right there? My God.
He turned on the TV while the cops were there. And you know how he put and mom in oil, right?
Yeah.
On the TV, right when he turned it on, it showed a in oil.
The reason why he got caught was because of the mom's best friend. Because she walked in, she's like, she would never leave without her medication.
Yeah.
These are the shoes she would wear out. If he's such a bad faker, he's such a bad actor.
Like, yeah.
I want everybody to just come home. Like wherever they're at, come home.
He got sent to prison. He was begging the judge to send him to the mental asylum instead because he was being haunted at the prison. He said he was seeing ghosts, he was seeing demons, and he was seeing so much different shit.
And like every night, I read that to them like every night. And like there's some scripture and stuff that I read to them. So
Also, the oil rig thing was like such a small
he had to
thing.
like
Alright, it's time to go south. Let's go.
Can you hold the fucking light straight?
Hey, Dad, look at Carly.
Get up here, Carly! What the hell was that? The hell was that?
Oh my God, Sally guard. God, oh my God.
oh, what the frick?
It literally looks like a zombie.
That's a real person?
Yes, that's a real person in the McDonald's drive-thru.
That looks like Halloween Haunt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The video hit like 24 million, and I think it was called the Australian Zombie Lady. These two girls, Melbourne, I think, they passed through a McDonald's. One of them locks the door. The other girl's like, yo, why the f are you locking the door for? And the girl's like, yo, look to your left. It's like a pale, like, grandma with black eyes trying to break into the door. Around that neighborhood in Melbourne, she's trying to break into houses now.
Damn.
So, like, as soon as they drove off, they started chasing the car, man.
We drove off and ran after the car. Heaps of people messaged me, said like, you know, she's been wandering around like where I live, trying to get into people's houses. And
have you heard about the RFK Jr. story?
No, what's up?
This is his first like big negative story this year, and it's insane. A long time ago, RFK is driving around in New York City. In front of him, a woman hits a tiny little bear. He gets out, it's dead, right? So he picks it up and he puts it in his car. Then he's like, ugh, I gotta go meet my guys down at the bar to go have a couple of drinks and stuff. So he goes to this bar, has a couple drinks. Literally, the black bear is still in his trunk.
Alive?
It's dead at this point. RFK realizes, oh wow, we have to get rid of this thing. And he tells all of his friends the story. So they drive. Their idea is to drive to Central Park.
Oh, man.
Take the bike and the bear and lay it down by a path. Lay the bike on top of the bear like it was some type of accident. This was a story in New York City. But it's just now, 10 years later. This is RFK when he was 60. And so RFK, to get ahead of the story, calls in Roseanne Barr and just sits her down and tells this hilarious story. I got messed up and had a black bear. And like, it's just like, and it, like all of these things happening. And it's like, what are you doing? The whole thing is fishy, dude.
He's the most infamous serial killer in the entire world. What is it about Ted Bundy that continues to intrigue people decades later? Today I'm going to try and fit in as many details I can about the life and crimes of Ted Bundy in one video, while also hopefully sharing something that maybe you did not know about the most well-known serial killer in the entire world. Ted Bundy was born November 24th, 1946 to a young unwed mother, and in the 1940s that was a big no-no. To avoid further shame on the family, Ted Bundy was raised by his grandparents and grew up believing that his biological mom was actually his older sister. The thing that's different about Ted Bundy than other well-known serial killers is that there was nothing that happened, as far as we know, in Ted Bundy's life that made him this way. He was a born psychopath with disturbing behaviors that started as early as 3 years old. Like on one afternoon, while Ted Bundy's aunt was taking a nap, she woke up and was completely surrounded in a circle of kitchen knives, with a little 3-year-old Ted Bundy just standing over her smiling like something out of a horror movie. Since he was a born psychopath, as a child, he was unable to feel and express emotions the way that other people can. He was seen as different, quiet, distant, shy, and he was bullied for it. As a young teen boy, he began committing petty crimes, as well as being a peeping Tom, and I feel like everyone we've talked about in the past week has been a peeping Tom. When he was 14 years old, he was a paper boy, and one day an 8-year-old girl disappeared from the same neighborhood that Ted Bundy's paper route was on. Her father says that Ted Bundy was stalking around their house only moments before she vanished, and unfortunately, this little girl would never be found. And although it's not confirmed, many people believe that this is Ted Bundy's first ever victim, and he began killing when he was only 14 years old. And then miraculously, after this 8-year-old girl disappeared, Ted Bundy gained confidence. His entire personality changed. He was confident and charming, maybe because he just got away with murder. Ted Bundy was smart, but definitely not as smart as he thought he was. He had an inflated ego and thought that he was better than everyone else. In college, Ted Bundy majored in psychology. There's a bit of irony for you, and here's some more irony. At one point, he worked for a hotline that people would call when they wanted to unalive themselves, so he helped talk people out of dying. Totally ironic. He also volunteered on a committee that was against SA violence, and there he helped write a pamphlet on SA prevention. A serial killer who was also at this point a serial R-worder helping prevent SA. Ted Bundy also studied law and also worked in politics at one point with dreams of being the president of the United States. Can you imagine that? A psychopath working in politics. And it was while he was working in politics that he traveled a lot and was able to commit murders in different jurisdictions and different states. It is really hard to determine when Ted Bundy began his killing spree. A lot of people believe that his first ever victim was when he was 14 years old with that 8-year-old girl, while other people believe it was in 1974 with his first first confirmed victims, while other people believe it started back in the 1960s. Because that's the thing about Ted Bundy. Everywhere he went, beautiful young women were disappearing or winding up deceased. It was also around this time that Ted Bundy got his first ever girlfriend. It was his first love. Although we know that he is unable to feel love, this woman was beautiful and from a very wealthy, powerful, successful family. So although he did not love her, he loved the idea of her and what she could offer him. This woman ultimately ended up rejecting Ted Bundy, and then after this, all of his victims had a striking resemblance to this first girlfriend. He also had a second girlfriend, which is his more well-known girlfriend. She was a single mother named Liz. At one point, he was dating both of these women and was engaged to both of these women without the other one knowing. His first confirmed victims were in 1974. The homes of beautiful young women were being broken into in the middle of the night. They were being found beaten, essayed, and unalived by Ted Bundy. And then quickly, he began to escalate his crimes, kidnapping women in broad daylight with one of his many ruses. He would get women to trust him by pretending to be injured. He would have like his arm in like a sling or be carrying crutches and ask women to help him put something in his car. He would also pretend to be a police officer and sometimes have a British accent. He would have all of these characters so he could like get away with his crimes, but he would tell people his name was Ted, like his real name. It was also around this time that his crimes began to escalate in an even more vile, disgusting way. He began revisiting the dump sites where he would put his victims and essay them after death, far into their decomposition. And this is the man that y'all were thirsting over in the 1980s, I do not forget. But since he was kidnapping all these women in broad daylight, there was a lot of eyewitnesses that, would see this man named Ted driving Ted's car, and they even had police sketches that looked a lot like Ted. So people in Ted's life that worked with him, and even his girlfriend Liz, started to be like, hey, Ted, you kind of look like this guy Ted that they're suspecting of being like a serial killer. Isn't that weird? The jig was up for Ted Bundy in Seattle, so he moved to Utah, where he began killing again. Luckily, in Utah, one of Ted's victims was able to escape and was able to identify Ted Bundy as the man who kidnapped her and essayed her. He was found guilty for this and sentenced to 1 to 15 years in prison. He was then sent to Colorado to go on trial for a murder that they believed he committed there. And in Colorado, he decided during this trial that he was going to defend himself and be his own lawyer with his limited knowledge he had on the law. This granted Ted Bundy unsupervised access to the courtroom's library, where he jumped out of a 2-story window, ran off, and escaped for 6 days before being found. And then he attempted to escape again, but unfortunately this time he was far more successful. He cut a small hole in the ceiling of his cell. He lost 35 pounds so he could fit through the hole. From there, he stole the clothing of a prison guard and just walked out the front door. Before anyone even knew he was missing, he was halfway across the country traveling to Florida. At this point, it had been 2 years since he last killed someone, and he said that he was going to go on a frenzy. In the middle of the night, he broke into the sorority house at Florida State University, where about 30 young girls were sleeping with plans of massacring all of them. He brutally attacked 4 young girls, leaving 2 dead before he got spooked and just fled the scene. He ran only a few blocks away before breaking into the home of another young woman and brutally attacking her as well. About a month later, he kidnapped a 12-year-old girl from a junior high school. He essayed her and unalived her before he was eventually caught. He was caught driving a stolen car, driving erratically down the road. This time, he was arrested for a 3rd and final time. He went on trial again. He was his own lawyer again. It was actually the first trial to ever be televised nationally, and it was a media circus. Ted Bundy had a lot of adoring fans and female fans and different suitors because he was so attractive and charming. And ladies, I mean this by the bottom of my heart, as a whole, we need to be having some higher standards because this is the most below looking average man I've ever seen in my entire life. This is absolutely disgusting, but it was actually during his trial for killing 12-year-old Kimberly Leach that he proposed to one of the women that were obsessed with him. Apparently, under state law, since he proposed to this woman in a court in front of a judge, they were like married by law apparently, and were able to have conjugal gynecological visits, and he got her pregnant. He was ultimately found guilty of all charges and sentenced to death row, where he for years maintained his innocence and tried to appeal multiple times, but when that did not work, it was time for plan B. Ted Bundy began to confess, and this is how we know like the limited knowledge that we do know on his amount of victims. His thought process was if he slowly began to confess to different murders, that they would postpone his execution date. Which is such a double-edged sword, because on one hand, of course, you want that information and you want to bring closure to families, but on the other hand, you don't want to let him win. Ultimately, they chose to execute him on January 24th, 1989, and all of his secrets died with him. By the end of his life, he confessed to 36 murders, but experts have tracked unsolved crimes fitting his MO with his own tracks, and they believe that he has upwards of 100 or more victims. I'm really interested to get your guys' take on this case, if you guys agree with executing him, even though he probably had more information that could bring closure to the victims. Do you think it was justified so he did not win? Also, was I able to tell you anything about Ted Bundy that you guys did not already know? Let me know in the comments, and while you're there, let me know what case you want to see me cover next. I love you guys so much, and I will see you tomorrow.
Holy shit, the trailer we have all been waiting for is finally here.
About things that are so terrible. You'll run away until your brain won't remember.
So why did you come back?
I'm here for research.
What exactly though are you researching?
I can see you lying back in your satin dress.
Have you noticed anything out of the ordinary in the lot recently?
Don't confess. Sundown, you're back.
There are some folks who had some kind of unusual experiences. They used to tell us stories about this place. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into, dear.
Where are you? Answer me.
This is not a disease you can catch.
You better take care.
Let me in.
You better take care.
If we don't fight back, they'll come for us eventually.
Things have gone bad in the lot now.
Run! It's not safe!
So as you can tell, that was the trailer for the new adaptation of Stephen King's Salem's Lot. This film was filmed quite a while ago, and it's been shelved ever since, and I think it's run into distribution problems here and there, but we finally got the trailer. So I'm a massive Stephen King fan. I'll watch any Stephen King adaptation. But I have to say that I'm not that excited about watching this film based solely on the trailer. That original adaptation was damn right creepy. The scene with the kid up against the window is one of the scariest scenes in all horror, in my opinion. And I absolutely hate what it looks like in this trailer. The way the kid looked at that window in the original film is creepy, and the way that they've shown it in this trailer has completely sucked all the life out of it. It looks pretty bad. The rest of the trailer looks okay. It looks very, very produced. It looks like it's got a lot of filters all over it. I'm just not that sold, I have to admit. I'm of course going to go and watch it. I'm a big Stephen King fan, and as I said, I'll watch anything that is based on a Stephen King book. But let me know what you think. I've been waiting for ages for this to drop, and I'm a bit underwhelmed by it.
Okay, this doesn't look like no ghost.
Your registration is expired.
God, bro, she's gone, man. And look, you know how the police officers have body cams?
Yeah.
There's a police officer that went to go and pretty much pull someone over for speeding or whatever. In the video, she goes to the driver, talking to her. She goes back to the car. She turns back, disappears. And she has cameras on the police car, and she has cameras on her body cam.
Whoa.
Disappears in front of everything. Look at this, look at this, look at this.
Okay, right. This doesn't look like
Sit tight, sir. I'll be right back. Your registration is expired.
God, bro, she's gone, man. And look. This is the other angle.
Sarah?
Wait.
What the heck?
She's
Sarah?
gone. She literally just disappeared.
3201.
Well, so before she gave like her driver's license and everything, disappeared.
No, that was quick. I'm gonna lie, that was super quick. She didn't have time.
Yeah, and there's like another angle of it too.
Okay, but
imagine she just like this.
You guys really love a good Tubi list, so here are 3 more horror movies that are streaming on Tubi that you need to see if you haven't seen them yet. Megan is Missing was released in 2011. I feel like most people have seen this movie, but if you haven't, here is your chance. It's a film about a girl who meets up with this older guy that she was chatting with online, and she goes missing. This movie is really hyped up for the found footage lovers, and I love it, so if you haven't seen it, watch it. It's totally worth it. Chained was released in 2012. This one's actually really dark, so check the trigger warnings for this because there's tons. This one's about a young boy who gets kidnapped by this serial killer, and he grooms him to be this abuser, and he has to decide if he's going to be the abuser or if he's going to try to escape. Extremely dark. I don't think that I can say that enough. It's extremely dark. Demon House is a documentary that was released in 2019 by Zach Bagans. If you saw The Deliverance, this is the actual paranormal investigation that goes on from the house that was from the film. Zach Bagans purchased the home and documented this great paranormal investigation for all of us to see. If you're into like ghost hunting or like ghost adventures or that kind of thing, you're absolutely gonna love Demon House. I thought it was fantastic, and the footage, like the stuff that they caught was crazy. Anyway, if you're new here, my name is Michaela. I love horror movies, so make sure you're following me so you don't miss out on another movie recommendation.
So one day this girl is home alone because her parents and brother decided to go out for the night. As she's sitting there, she's having this really strange feeling to look outside the window. So she's sitting in the living room on the couch watching TV, and again she gets that sensation, so she's like, fuck it, I'm gonna turn. She turns to look out the window, and she says she sees about 4 shadows out there. Like they're standing arm to arm with each other and looking directly into her window, but for her, like, she could only make out shapes, which are adults, but they're all like shadows. She can't see any details. She says that when she saw that, she got so scared, she closed the window, runs up to her room, and locks herself in. And from that moment on, her life became a nightmare. She says that she would go to sleep, and out of nowhere, she would hear almost like if a book was open and the pages were being turned, but she didn't have any books in her bedroom. On other occasions, when she would wake up, she would smell like a burning smell. And of course it was a concern because like, what if this house is on fire? So she would follow the trail of that smoke, and it would lead her under her pillow with pictures of herself that have been burned all around the edges. And like I said, this happened several times. After the whole photo thing, because at that point she grabbed every single photo that she had and took it out of her room and hid it somewhere. She would then start finding needles underneath her pillow. And of course she was terrified because she's like, who the fuck is going into my room while I'm asleep? And because she was so young, instead of like going to her family and telling them, hey, this is happening, she did quite the opposite. She would start putting like chairs on her door and like wardrobes in front of it just so that nobody would come in while she was sleeping. She wouldn't just experience those things in her room. If she were to go to the kitchen, she would find like weird symbols made out of like the salt shaker or like flour. And it wasn't these like salt and flour that were in the kitchen. It would end up in her room, knowing that she had never taken food into her bedroom or like make those symbols in there. The moment that she said that she had had enough was because she started to hear voices from her closet. She said that she would not just hear like one voice, but it was like a whole bunch of voices talking at the same time, and she would feel like attracted to that. Like she would want to go towards the closet, and she stopped herself. That's when she was like, no, I've had enough, I can't deal with this on my own. So she actually gets her family and she starts telling them everything that she's been experiencing. And think she wasn't alone. Apparently, her entire family have been experiencing these weird things. For example, her parents would be laying asleep at night and they would start feeling like something was crawling on the bed. And it didn't feel like a small thing. It felt like a human, like an adult just crawling, and the moment they would like get up, it would stop. But if they didn't move, it would continue to crawl like up to their head. And then her brother was experiencing really weird dreams where like this person would offer him some food, and the second that he would take it and almost bite into it, the person would become deformed and had like a tongue of a snake. And his brother's like, I've never had these nightmares before, and it's every night that he's having these. She thinks back to that day where she saw those 4 shadows outside of the house, and she thinks that the moment that she turned to look at them, like maybe she connected and she almost invited them in. She also believes that maybe the previous owners of that house had something to do with black magic. They had looked into it, and they say that the burning of the pictures goes back into some satanic rituals. I'd be so terrified, but what do you guys think?
You ever hear about the Fountain of Youth?
I have, but like, is that real?
They found it. No. It's in the USA. Brunswick Springs in Vermont. This place has 4 different springs. It's been used for centuries with the natives around there because of its healing properties. People that have been badly injured, whenever they drink the water, they're healed. There's a person in the 1800s that kept drinking the water and lived to 90 years old. 1800s though. 1800s. People were at like 20. In the 1800s, he credited his health to drinking the water every single day. And that's why he was able to live that long. There was businesses that wanted to take advantage of the fountain. They wanted to sell bottles. There's this one businessman went to go bottle some, went to try and sell it, but there was a certain shaman that found out he was doing it, and he put a curse. If anybody were to profit maliciously off of the springs, they would be severely cursed. This one guy didn't care about the curse. He opened up a hotel right by the springs, using all of the water from the springs, marketing it as, we're using this spring water that will heal you, rejuvenate you, and make you live longer. That same hotel, out of some spectacular event, arose into flames and was burnt down. There was another businessman that said, you know what, like, that's probably not a curse, like, let me just try. He opened up one, and what happened? I didn't know, fam. Yo, Scar in The Lion King, he's the blood heir. It's not Mufasa. So you know how Mufasa's the Lion King?
Yeah.
He's Simba's dad, Mufasa. Mufasa was adopted. Scar is the real royal bloodline. And Mufasa, yeah. So what happened was, Mufasa was adopted. He was Scar's friend, and he outshined Scar.
Yeah.
And Mufasa ended up becoming king.
Word.
Yeah. So that's what Lion King 2 is gonna be about.
Oh, showing the other side?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's kind of crazy.
Wild, because we know Scar is a villain.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But we didn't understand why he's a villain.
So that's why all the emotions are built up, because he's an adopted child.
Yeah, so think about it. He's supposed to be king. Scar's supposed to be king. And Mufasa, so Scar found Mufasa as a kid. And was like, can I bring him home? I want to be friends with him, blah, blah. They became brothers because they got adopted. Something happened to the father, I guess, but Mufasa ended up taking the throne.
So they're gonna make a whole nother movie just based on that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Also, I think the reason he has the scar is because they fought for the throne.
These 2 teenage girls committed one of the most horrific and heinous murders that Wales has ever seen. I'm True Crime Caitlin, and this is the murder of Edna Phillips. Edna and her beloved dog Chum lived together in Aberdare, South Wales, where it was said that Edna lived a very isolated life. She was described as a very independent woman who was well known, well liked, well regarded, and generally a very warm person. When the Rossi family moved next door, initially them and Edna got along well. Edna would even take out the family's toddler, a young girl named Maria, out for walks when she took Chum out for a walk. However, this good relationship with her neighbours didn't last long. In 1987, Edna contacted the local council asking to be moved homes. The Rossi family were almost always constantly playing loud music, hosting lots of parties, being drunk and disorderly. Edna had reported them to the police, and after making this report, her life became a living hell. Maria specifically despised Edna. She would dump loads of rubbish in Edna's yard. She would vandalize her house by smothering feces all over it. She broke in and burgled Edna, and when she would see Edna out and about in the street, she would physically pick stones up off the floor and throw them off Edna while screaming, shouting at her, calling her a fucking bitch. So following all of this abuse, Edna once again approached the council begging to be moved, but they still wouldn't move her. Instead, what they suggested was that she fitted a burglar alarm. As you can imagine, this alarm did nothing for Edna, who was crying out for help. On the 16th of July 1992, Edna was 70 years old, partially sighted, and suffering from arthritis. She had taken Chum out for a walk that day, and when they got home later in the evening, she let him back out in the garden to have another run around for a little bit. At around about 11:15, Edna went to her door and started calling for Chum, wanting him to come back in the house. This evening, Maria and her friend Christina Malloy, who were both 17, had been drinking cider and abusing temazepam, so they were drunk and high when they heard Edna calling out for Chum. Maria and Christina ambushed Edna as she stood at her door, forcing her back into the house. They began to strangle Edna using Chum's dog lead, and they slashed her face 35 times using a Stanley knife. In a frenzy, they proceeded to use a pair of scissors, some broken glass, and the Stanley knife to stab Edna 86 times. They continued on to beat Edna, jumping up and down on her body, breaking 5 of her ribs, breaking her nose, and they even attempted to scalp her. They literally tried to cut and peel the scalp from Edna's skull. Then, as Edna lay dead in a pool of her own blood, Maria and Christina proceeded to crack eggs over her body, thinking that this was funny. Before leaving the house, they stole Edna's Hoover, a radio, and £57, which was Edna's pension that she had only withdrawn earlier that day. The next day, Maria was heard joyfully singing, quote, "Ding dong, Edna's dead," in the same way that they sing on The Wizard of Oz, "Ding dong, the witch is dead." She confessed to her parents what she had done to Edna, and within 48 hours, both of the young girls were arrested. However, I don't believe that Maria's confession to her parents aided in her arrest. Looking through the reports, it only made out that when Maria was arrested, her parents knew why she was arrested, not that they reported this confession to the police. When news of Edna's murder broke and the 2 young girls were named as her killers, the entire community went into uproar. Maria and Christina's families both had to be moved out of the area because of the abuse that they were receiving. Yet when Edna cried out for help to be moved out of the area, she was ignored. At Cardiff Crown Court in March 1993, Maria Rossi and Christina Malloy would both plead guilty to the murder of 70-year-old Edna Phillips. They were both handed a sentence of life imprisonment with a minimum of 15 years to serve. However, both of these sentences would go on to be reduced. Maria's going down to 13 and Christina's going down to 12. Maria was released in 2010 at age 35, and apart from that, I could find nothing about where she is now or what she is doing. Christina would also go on to be released, and upon her release she changed her name, now going by Martine. She got married and had 2 children. However, from her release she really struggled with both drug and alcohol addiction. In 2017, she would be discovered dead in her Cambridgeshire home by her husband at the age of 42.
There are speculations on what could happen if you're trapped inside of a microwave.
If you're trapped in a microwave?
Yes. I know that we're more commonly used to the household microwaves, but there's industrial strength microwaves where adult humans could fit into easily and the door could be locked.
Whoa, that's like a horror movie.
Yeah. So within the first few seconds, you will likely feel a warmth on your skin. But other than that, the first 10 seconds will be more so confused panicking. It's around 11 seconds in that you might start noticing some weird discomfort in your eyes. The eyes go first. The human eyeball is made up of 98% water, and those water molecules inside the eyeball are gonna start vibrating, and your vision is gonna start vibrating. There was a woman who stuck her head in a microwave and somehow managed to turn it on. Please don't ever do this. this. But she stated that she felt her eyeball vibrating inside of her head. She said her vision was also vibrating. She's lucky that she did not lose her eyesight completely. 25 seconds in, there's gonna be this prickly sensation on your skin, like you're being poked by one of those cactus plants. It stings, but it's not the biggest pain you've ever felt in your life. Within 30 seconds, your body will start profusely sweating. It's a natural reaction to your body's temperature rising. And then around that point, at 40 seconds in, you might notice some steam coming out of your body. Literally, you're generating steam. 45 seconds in, you start seeing blistering or skin starting to peel like you're having a really bad sunburn. At the 70-second mark, it is likely you'll have second-degree burns, which are not the worst, but could still take several weeks to heal as long as you get out. But if you don't, if you're still trapped in there, within the next 5 seconds, so 1 minute and 15 seconds in, blood, pus, bodily fluids will start trying to break out of the skin barrier. They're gonna start trying to force their way out of the layers of the skin. You will likely be conscious for this. Then comes the whistling. It sounds like there's water boiling inside of your ear and it's trying to get out. It's like an angry pot of pasta on the stove, but it sounds and feels like it's directly in your eardrum. Again, this is a theoretical idea of what would happen, but it's guesstimated that after 110 seconds, most humans will collapse, the body will shut down, go into shock. This is theoretically what would happen if you were to be trapped inside an industrial strength microwave, which is about 3,000 watts of power. Most household microwaves are about 1,000 watts of power. I imagine things will just take a bit longer, but torturous nonetheless and fatal nonetheless. It essentially cooks you from the inside out. Just imagine all the water and likely the blood in your body starts to boil while it's inside your body. Most of the injuries will be internal and it is essentially being lit on fire but from the inside, which doesn't make sense with Kai Yang's initial story that she had a seizure, she collapsed onto her daughter onto the space heater and crushed her, burning her to death. She does not recall because of this said seizure. Now, it just doesn't make any sense with the injuries. They were able to gather that Mirabelle was likely placed into a microwave on her back based on the burns. Additionally, they estimated that Mirabelle was placed into the microwave at least 2 to 3 minutes at minimum. They can't be exact with their time, but they suspect if they had to get very, very close, perhaps 5 minutes is their best bet, factoring in the types of burns that she had. Mind you, she was only left alone with Kai Yang for 11 minutes. But their observations indicate that she likely would have passed away in 2 to 3 minutes of being in the microwave, that the burns would have been fatal by that point.
Skinwalkers and Wendigos are nothing more than an imaginary story. I'm currently attempting to spend the night at Skinwalker Hut, which is this creepy hut I found in the middle of the forest that's known for a lot of really weird rituals that take place. Before I spend the night in my vehicle right outside the hut, I decided to venture around the forest, and things started to get really weird when I was hearing something off in the distance and decided to investigate and do this.
Skinwalker! Skinwalker! Skinwalker!
Since Skinwalkers and Wendigos don't exist, and I think that might have just been an elk, but I'm not entirely sure, I decided to do the only thing that made sense and venture further into the forest towards the noise to try to see what it was. Everything about this feels like a bad idea, and I feel like I'm the main character in a horror movie, and things just got even worse when this happened.
Hello?
Something about this encounter doesn't feel right. It seems like the noise is getting further and further away, but the further it gets away from me, the worse and worse I'm starting to feel. I just don't feel right out here.
Guys, there is this new found footage possession movie that you absolutely need to be keeping your eye on. It is called Name the Demon. It is a single cut exorcism movie, and what that means is from the time the movie starts till it's over, you are in it with them. It's about this dad who calls the church to request an exorcism, and they send a group of exorcists to his house because of the severity of his situation. And luckily you won't have to wait long to see this either. It's going to be hitting streaming services in early October. So put this on your watch list and get ready to have a front row seat to an exorcism.
Tattoos that can get you in serious trouble. Insect edition. A tattoo of a moth can typically symbolize that the wearer is constantly drawn to danger or actively seeks trouble. A tattoo of a scorpion is typically associated with a prisoner who's known to have a violent side. It's almost there to signify danger. A tattoo of a beetle signifies the inmate's ability of avoiding being caught. It's almost worn as a badge of honor. In the context of white supremacist groupings, in order to earn your spiderweb tattoo, one must cause the demise of a minority in order to earn it. In the context of the traditional system, a tattoo of a spiderweb is associated with having done or doing time in prison, almost being entangled within the system, in the sense of having cobwebs form from the inaction that comes from being behind bars. A tattoo of a cockroach symbolizes resilience and survival, often reflecting the inmate's ability to endure harsh conditions.
His name is the same as Deadpool, Wade Wilson, and he's a mask. This is what's crazy though. Everybody's waiting till he gets in prison because it's over for him. The reason why, I think he something crazy.
Defendant is guilty of first degree. Count 2.
He's being sent to prison because he people, right?
Yeah.
He has a tattoo and it's of the, we can't really talk about it, but that tattoo you cannot get if you're not earned it. Because in a certain gang, that means you're a high official.
Yeah.
He just got it to get it. That prison that he's probably gonna be sent to, filled with all of those people in that gang.
Oh.
The moment he's sent to the prison,
Yeah.
it's over.
Are you ever at home, maybe watching TV, and you think you see a shadow with the corner of your eye and you turn to look and there's nothing there? Somebody tagged me in this video and I have to share it with you guys too. So I did go into the creators page and it's called Smug Puppy, and basically they post videos of things that they capture inside of their home. So I'm assuming maybe some people were telling them that they were faking their videos because they decided to make this video where they were not gonna cut the camera, and as soon as they saw the thing, they were gonna run towards it. You guys have to see this.
Front screen of the camera.
Yeah. Pay attention here.
What we decided to do in an effort to prove that, I think that's what I want. Yeah. In an effort to prove that these are real, I've made Kaylee sit.
Thanks.
Sit really close, and she's gonna grab the camera as soon as we see one. And I'm pretty sure it screams pretty hard to see from here, to be fair, but we've tried to push it back to get the best view. And she's gonna grab the camera and get it up the stairs because there's literally nowhere to go on the stairway. There's yeah, you'd hear somebody running up the stairs. There's no other rooms to go in. So, you know what I mean? That's what we're doing. So, I want to get ready, guys. I'm pretty sure. Don't cover the screen because people say you've cut the video. Yeah. Just try and grab it the best you can. Yeah, go. Quick.
There's nothing there. Nope. Nothing.
Show everywhere. Well, there's nowhere really to show.
No, there's nowhere to show. This is flat against the wood. Yeah.
I feel like that scares me so much because a lot of us have probably seen that. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't been brave enough to go into their account and see any of the other videos because that was enough for me. But what do you guys think? Have you ever experienced this? I know I've had, and I just lie to myself. I'm just like, it's the sun, you know, there's shadow, it's a tree moving outside.
Check out this terrifying video I found online. Mimics are one of the most terrifying creatures in the world, mimicking your voice and voices of those you're familiar with to lure you outside to do unspeakable things. This video from Morg's Haunting on TikTok is absolutely bone-chilling. In this video, Morgan hears what sounds like her own disembodied voice outside of her door in her apartment hallway. This is typical mimic behavior as they try to use your voice or a voice that you're familiar with to lure you outside to do unthinkable things to you. Morgan explains that this is one of the most terrifying experiences she's ever had, but wait till you see this next video.
Who are you? Please let me in. Huh? Please help me. What? What's wrong with you? It is for me. And what? It took my daughter. Parker? Please let me inside. Parker!
This is typical mimic behavior. Whatever this thing is standing outside the user's window attempting to get inside by begging for help. The worst thing you could do is let this thing inside of your house, and unfortunately for TikTok user Half a Virgin, they did exactly that. Take a look. After failing to keep a mimic outside of their house, the user notices what appears to be a faceless human staring at them from inside their house, but as soon as they get closer, they notice that it's completely gone. I don't know about you, but I definitely wouldn't be able to go inside my house after seeing something like that.